Good afternoon. We'd like to welcome you to the City Council study session for the afternoon of Monday, June the 19th. I will note that most of our council is present. We have a couple that are out of town and excused. That's Vice Mayor Heredia and Councilmember Freeman. So they are excused, but with that exception, everyone is here. Item 1 on our agenda is to review the agenda we have for tonight's council meeting. Council, I know we looked at this just a few days ago. Do we have some questions for staff? Mr. Summers, I see a smile on your face.
When do you not see a smile on my face?
Good point.
Sometimes it's a grimace. So 13A and 13B, I know that the applicant, both the airport is here and Boyer is here. And I wonder if they would like to come up and speak a little bit about last minute about the project, the quality, and I think we had a last minute change in the development agreement, Jim? Yes, okay.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Summers. Let me do some quick introductions over here. I think everybody knows after his time at the dais last week, Mr. Brian O'Neill from the airport. Nana has joined us, and Matt Jensen is here from the Boyer Companies. Matt, you've been with the company for about how long?
Just over 20 years.
Okay, so he's here to speak to the quality issues, and we'll let you sort of take it from there. There has been a small change. You want to start with that item?
What's the small change? Jim?
Mayor, Council, with the development agreement, if you look at section 4.3, right now what is written into the agreement is to allow contractors yard, not as a standalone, but whenever it's associated to a use. Based on our discussion and our concern, we are moving that to the list of prohibited uses. So it's totally going to be prohibited on the property. So that's the change that we are requesting or recommending.
Very good. Jim?
Yeah, just to clarify, Mayor, Council, both I believe the airport and Boyer have agreed to this provision, so I just want to make, they're both sitting right here right now, so that we'll change it from, I'll call it a limited permissibility under 4.3, and we'll move it to 3.1 for where it'll be prohibited. That's contractors' yards. And so if you decide to put it back on the consent agenda, it'll be with that change, with the prohibition on contractors' yards.
Okay, and I appreciate that. So one of the challenges of this development agreement is that we did not settle this case until this past Thursday. So we got the information handed to council late Thursday evening. We had the weekend to review it. The weekend for me involved Friday work, Saturday had a community meeting, which I'll speak to later in the morning, followed by my grandchildren home with me all day, which is a joy, but I take the grandchildren over the development agreement reading. I know it was close, but that's true. And then all day Sunday was Father's Day. So it was a challenge to find that balance act family time with reading the development agreement. Fortunately, it was a fairly short read, the development agreement's to the point. But also I was concerned about in the development agreement, and we're reading that section in particular, when I read this, I was thinking 38th Street and University, south of Sky Harbor Airport. And the yards and recycling facilities that they have there. I've been on several fires in that location. It's really not the most attractive area in town. In speaking with staff, the development agreement covers most of these things. They are prohibited. If it's not prohibited specifically in the development agreement, it is prohibited in the zoning code. And hotels, motels is also covered in the zoning code for council use permit. Is that correct, Jim? It's something we went through?
Yeah, that was on the,
because that's
I
on
think
the presentation. We mentioned before, first of all, I appreciate you being here, and I'd like to hear a little bit about the quality of the development here. And I've had an opportunity to research this and to talk with Brian. He speaks very highly of the company. and the process you went through. The fact that you were self-capitalized, I think, is a benefit to this, because we have a long-term game for this property and for the areas around it. And we want to speak to quality. The problem I have with the long-term game is if you look at some of what's been promised in the area around it, we see some really high-quality design aesthetic. And this is something that I hear about all the time, is that the design for the area around, we look at high-rises, we look at shopping, entertainment, mixed use of development, some really quality design standards that and building designs. I mean, even design standards that were put into place for this region that garner a lot of excitement around this in the community. The challenge that we're having is that the pictures that are sent out here all this time, and this is supposed to be a 40-year program, 20 years residential, 40 years in commercial development. There's pictures that are being sent by neighbors are just tilt up. Tilt up. Right. Where is that integrated mixed use? Where is the vision that we have had? I've looked at a lot of the Boyer stuff. Like I said, I did my research in looking at Boyer, and these are the kinds of things I see from Boyer. This is exciting. Right, there's some office space here, there's industrial, there's job opportunities here, there's even complexes of office. This is a kind of thing that really makes me excited about having this as a partner. But I also see that you own properties that, and this might not be your development, maybe you bought into that don't meet the standard. It's a lesser end. Can we bring up page 18 of the development agreement? Is that available? I want to take a look at the aesthetic. We have a vision for Gateway. High quality, mixed use design, thousands of high quality jobs, right? And to Brian's credit, he's done a bang up job on the other side. Virgin Galactic is just one opportunity that I think is a high quality job. What I need to hear from you and looking at this design aesthetic, and just, Mary, if you don't mind just flipping through the pages, you can go back and forth, is to know that what we are going to see here is high quality design, high quality jobs, that is it 30 years or 40 years this project for build out? That you stated in the 40 in the statement, that there actually is patient money here to go after the high quality job and not just take what's next, what's on the table right now.
Is that on? Yeah, I'm happy to address that. I appreciate you showing pictures of what we've done. I would add that a lot of those initial ones had nothing to do with us. That one does. That one does there as well. And
So the one I didn't like isn't you.
if you flip that over, I'd explain what that one is that you don't like, because I think you would like it. It's a very similar project to what we're talking about here. It's Ogden. I think it's the old Defense Depot Ogden. It's about a 1,200 acre Army base that was closed down. So when we took that base over, there were about 4 million square feet of existing buildings, and we've added about 5 million square feet to that of tilt buildings. But it's a high energy, filled with, it does have some distribution, but it has a lot of manufacturing and those type of facilities in there as well. So it is, if you were to call Ogden City today, they would speak very highly of the partnership that we have with the city. It's probably generating about $6 million a year for the city that goes directly into their budget. We do have, our company is 50 years old. It's privately held. The Boyer family runs the company. Roger Boyer, who founded the company, is at the office every day. He's very involved. I think one of the things that sets us apart as a company is and you've mentioned it, is we do self-fund. We don't have to go out and raise equity. We have our own equity internally generated. So we look at projects as a long-term hold. It's one of the reasons why Ogden City selected us as a partner in that project, and I think it's one of the reasons why we were selected by the airport as well. We're financially stable. We hold projects for the long term. We're not a buy and flip type of developer. Associated with that, I think what that trickles down to or relates to is that we don't build stuff just to sell it. We build it to hold for the long term, and we think that that impacts the type of development that we do, the architecture, the building systems, all of those things. In a project like this, we very much would like to have the type of office buildings that you're pointing out right there. And I think as you look at our master plan, it anticipates those type of buildings in future phases. You know, we have to start the project at some point, and it's probably unlikely that we're going to start it with 3 200,000 square foot office buildings right now,
Because to
unfortunately.
be fair, the market for Class A is pretty cold right now, right?
Yeah, we would never, no one would lend us money on that right now.
But 20, 30 years from now, 10 years from now.
Absolutely, and if that was the market, we would
If
do.
this is truly a 40-year project that you're going to hold on to, we're going to have the opportunity for something like this.
Absolutely, and our plan shows that up along the 24. We have office space that was sketched in there in some of our initial renderings and that we did. That would be, I think from day one, that's been our plan. For us as a company, doing office buildings like that is much more lucrative than doing a tilt manufacturing facility. If we could do the office, we'd do that.
Yeah. My fear would be that we take what's on the table because it's immediately there, and I feel like other developers have done that
Yeah.
and not been patient as they've stated in their documents, hey, we're here for
Right.
40 years, and it doesn't feel like that.
Well, I think there's always a balancing act that we're in. One is to meet the needs of the airport. It's a 40-year deal, but there are some, delivery requirements that are placed upon us. And so it's not like we can just sit and hope that someone shows up during those 40 years. We've got to be actively engaged. And it's going to take some projects to get that ball rolling. And that's what we're working on.
So with active engagement, and I mentioned this to Brian in the last meeting, I think the airport has to be actively involved too.
And which they have been.
Right.
Absolutely.
To help incentivize some of that better development. We've done that here in the city. Brian's going to be is inheriting one of our top, one of his former top economic development
Right.
assistants, who's done these projects, to push that quality up. And this city manager's done the same thing with helping to incentivize better development. Things like sit-down restaurants, higher-end hotels. Even if it's limited service, there are limited service and there are limited service. Like Cambria.
Agree.
Which I finally remembered the name of. Yeah. Cambria's doing a rooftop bar and restaurant.
Yep.
About 3 miles up the road. And who doesn't want to sit on a rooftop bar and have a beverage and watch the planes land? It's that type of development, even within that specific category of a hotel, especially knowing what's going across the street potentially, what they're working on, the fact that we're in need of that kind of a hospitality. And this region as a whole in Southeast Mesa is absolutely screaming for some quality development and destinations. And if you're that partner that can help make that happen and wants to make that happen, then I welcome you to Mesa. I really do.
Well, I think we are that partner. I don't think, and the airport can speak to this, and we've kept them up to speed on what we've been working on. There's not one thing that up to this point that we've looked at. I think we're not looking at filling up, the retail part with Taco Bell drive-throughs. We're not looking at doing, just tilt buildings everywhere, with the cross docks that we've talked about. We are looking at very thoughtful development. We've got some great projects that we've been working on.
Show some of the others.
And we think that they're, as we come forward with those, we think that the city will be pleased with what that is.
I mean, these images that I see, I mean, yes, there's tilt-up, but that's a tilt-up building, the one in the upper right corner, by the way. That's some nice tilt-up with glass, looks like. I mean, that, excuse me, that's a quality design aesthetic that I'm looking for and that we desperately need, plus the users. So I know I've monopolized a lot of time. If council has any other questions, Mayor, I'm satisfied And unless there's an objection, we can put this on the consent.
Okay, great. Yes, Mr. Brady.
And thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Summers. Let me kind of just quickly go a little deeper with this. Because I appreciate, I don't know, it's anxiety or frustration or both. But sometimes we have development agreements that come through the city, we see the architectural renderings, and then we see something else. And that's a challenge, right? This is different. There's some belt and suspenders on this arrangement that we don't have anywhere else in the city. And I mean that, and first of all, let me speak to the Boyer issue. Boyer was our second choice on Riverview. They're very close behind, and we were picking them for the Riverview development. So we knew them, we had vetted them, and we liked everything you just heard about them. They were the number one choice by the group of evaluators at the airport, which includes City of Mesa staff and others. So we were very pleased that Boyer had expressed an interest, and they were up against some stiff competition in that selection. So there's been a vetting, there was a competitive process to select Boyer to have this arrangement with the airport. But here's that distinction. The City of Mesa, and I'm trying not to offend the other partners, but we are the most active, strong partner, Brian, at the board. We have a huge influence on what happens at the airport, and rightfully so. It's in Mesa, we pay the largest contribution, half our staff works there, all those things. But what's important is that the airport is entering into a master lease with Boyer. So as much as whatever council does here, all of the future opportunities for development are going to come back to the board, the airport board. It's going to go through me as a senior staff member at the airport. It's going to go through the mayor, who sits on with the other mayors in the communities, making the final decisions on the lease. I think there's going to be a lot more, to the councilman's concern, quality control opportunities to manage that process as the airport is leasing all these parcels out over time, over the 40 years. So the airport, this is still the airport property. The property never gets conveyed to Boyer because it's FAA property. And because this is the future of the airport, the east side eventually will be the dominant place for the terminals. It'll be the active area of the airport. So everything we're doing here is appropriate. I just want to also give council this idea that this is different because there is a long-term involvement. Yes, it's the airport, but the shadow of the city is very broad in this responsibility. And the mayor can even speak to that. But I just want to make sure, I think this is, everything we're doing is appropriate. I'm not questioning, I'm trying to maybe give you another sense of, the city is going to be very much involved in the outcome that takes place here. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just echo what's been said. As the airport board was very excited that Boyer was selected as the partner on this piece of property. Their reputation is top-notch. And as you look around the valley and look across the Western United States at the projects they've done, they really distinguish themselves because they don't build and flip. They use their own money to build, and they build it for the long-term, high-quality, because that's their model. So for that and for all the other reasons that have been explained, I have a lot of comfort and I'm pleased that the city and the area and the airport are going to be entering into this agreement with the Boyer Company, and I have high expectations, as we all do, but I also have a high comfort level that those expectations are going to be met. So thank you, sir, for being here, representing your company. With Mr. Summers' permission then, I'm sorry, I didn't know if there were other questions. Thank you.
It just came up the last minute. So this project is being done in phases, right? It's 3 phases? I have to go back to the notes, like 3 phases.
Correct.
So the city sells the property to...
No, so
No.
back up, the property is under the control of the airport authority.
Okay, always says...
But it's always, but it can't be sold.
Okay.
Right.
But the airport authority, as it is set up, has a senior staff oversight and an elected officials board of directors.
Okay.
And that is represented very strongly by Mesa. So all of that future leases and the specific
what's being leased out, those parcels will come through that board. We're doing it right now. Skybridge, Arizona is, how many acres do they have on that south side?
260.
260. So we've already got this relationship with an existing development today, and I think if you go see what's been built out there with the hangars, pretty quality stuff. So the idea is, and again, all those leases still have to come through the group I sit on as well as the mayor. So we have those opportunities, I guess, another layer of quality control. It's not like Brian and Matt are just going to go off and do a deal and we don't see it anymore. That was what I was just trying to convey, that the city still is very much involved in these conversations.
So worst case scenario, phase one is completed, but we feel like we're not in agreement or don't have the shared value of what phase two looks like or something. There is an exit?
There could be an exit, but I think part of the first exit is the lease doesn't get done because we impose the idea that we're not getting the quality we want. And so we have that discussion during that, before we even get past a phase, right? It's when we're coming and saying, hey, we want to build out, you know, this kind of development. And we're like, yeah, I don't know, how does that fit in with the discussion we have? We can have those discussions and they're going to want it. They've actually come to us and said, here's the quality we want. Here's the signage we want. And we're like, whoa, wait, you know, how are we going to, you know, the infrastructure, the road improvements, all those are done in conjunction with each other. But we have a say. The city has a significant influence because it's at the airport and we are on that board. And again, I'll say it, we have a very strong shadow of influence over what happens there.
So there's safeguards and controls
That's what I'm
as go, and because over the term, there will be change.
Sure,
in
absolutely.
personnel and the people who.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, so we want to make sure that it stays strong to the vision of the future.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item?
I would just I just would like to say thank you for coming and reassuring us on this, because I too, as I stated last Thursday, have concern for the quality of this project and for all projects in Mesa, frankly. So I appreciate the belt and suspenders analogy. I'm glad that we have that. It does sound like this is unique, and there are many opportunities to ensure that this continues over the next several decades to be the kind of quality that Mesa requires and deserves, frankly. So anyway, thank you for coming.
You bet.
And I appreciate you reiterating this will be a very high-quality project for Southeast Mesa.
We feel that way. We appreciate the partnership that we have with the airport, and we look forward to working with the city going forward as well. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Christopher, as you read the consent agenda, would you go ahead and include 13A and 13B?
Mayor, just for, I'd like on the phasing, just so that there's no misunderstanding. The phasing is really for the off-site public infrastructure. The development site is so large that it's not intended necessarily to mean that they're going to develop the entire site of phase 1 or 2 and 3 in that kind of stages. That's a very large piece of property, right? And so it's more about the off-site infrastructure improvements and how that's going to be phased, because we're not trying to require all of the off-site infrastructure. So I don't want you to get locked into the ideas that you're going to see this massive phase 1 built on this much property. That wasn't the intent of the development agreement in the context of the phasing. And in fact, even the off-site infrastructure, they can be in different orders. So it doesn't have to be 1, 2, 3. It could be 3, 2, 1 or so forth, okay?
All right. Brian, nice job. Anything else you want to add?
I was willing to clarify that if I was given the opportunity. Mayor Giles, Councilmember Duff. The different phases within the property, I just want to make you guys sit back down.
You did it.
The different phases within the property are really so that the authority can continue to control what's being developed. And there are certain performance thresholds that need to be met. Phase 1 is 100 acres, phase 2 is 100 acres, phase 3 is 73 acres. And as they continue to perform, they'll be able to earn their way into more and more of the 273 acres. And you know, there are opportunities where they may get a tenant who wants to develop now that's not in phase 1, that's located in phase 2 or phase 3. The authority through the board and the approval of the board, we have the ability to go outside of the first phase, but they still need to complete phase 1 and show the performance in phase 1 before they'll actually get to go and start to develop in phase 2. So there are controls on that as well.
All right. Thank you very much. Look forward to breaking ground out there. Council, other questions regarding tonight's agenda? I know we just went over it a day or two ago. All right. If there's nothing else, moving on, item 2A on our agenda is to take action on board appointments. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Ms. Spilsbury and Mr. Summers. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you. That passes unanimously. Next is current events and conferences attended. Council members, anything you'd like to share? And I know we just met a few days ago. We did have a great event right before this where we issued a proclamation on Juneteenth, but I'll talk more about that upstairs, I think. All right, if there's nothing else, Mr. Brady, what does our schedule of future meetings look like?
Thank you, Mayor. We will see you this Thursday, June 22nd, for a study session. We'll be discussing, we didn't have the opportunity to hear the public safety mental health response that's funded by ARPA. We're going to talk about downtown parking and the opportunity to acquire a parking garage in downtown and some additional real estate downtown. So we'll kind of a real estate and mental health discussion on Thursday. So we'll see you then.
Great, looking forward to it. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Thank you, Ms. Spilsbury and Ms. Goforth. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned.